Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ray. I'm a detransition male, and today I'm going to be talking about egg culture in online trans communities, particularly among trans identified males, and how this egg culture is driving trans identified males who have autogynephilia, driving them down the trans identity pipeline, indoctrinating them into this false idea that their gender confusion is at the root of all their issues and that somehow transitioning is going to solve all their problems. And I just want to say up front, I'm not like totally against, autogynephiles taking hormones in order to alleviate and manage, their, dysphoria that, results as, or is caused by the underlying autogynephilia. And if you don't know, autogynephilia is love of oneself as a woman. It is inverted heterosexuality. It is a sexuality, a sexual orientation that causes you to be attracted to femininity as a heterosexual male, but also it causes you to be attracted to yourself becoming feminized. So it is attraction to femininity and envy of femininity, such that you want to also be feminine yourself. And that is driving the majority of trans identification in trans women today. So I'm going to share a video from this really popular trans feminine content creator named Icky. So Icky is the girlfriend of also another huge trans content creator, Finster. So Finster, if you don't know, got his fame from identifying as a femboy, as a crossdresser, and then he also got indoctrinated and groomed into the trans pipeline. So now Finster is on hormones, and sooner or later it's probably going to be like the full blown binary. I am a woman. I've always been a woman type thing. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, Finster's saying he's gender fluid. But I want to focus on this creator in particular, Icky, and this video. This video is called, let's see, it's called You Already Know That You're Trans. That seems pretty concerning. Okay, let's watch the video and see what Icky has to say.
I'm not very prepared. You're gonna have to bear with me. It's football day. It is coming home. I am talking today about... I've forgotten. What's the title again? Yes, you already know that you are trans. You already know.
That is indoctrination. There is no such thing as true trans. For any possible person who's trans identified, there exists a counterfactual possible world such that you could run the clock back in time and that person could have managed their gender dysphoria, managed their gender confusion without taking on the trans identity. Because there's no objective, true, perfect, objective clinical diagnostic criteria that will clearly say that this is a true transsexual and this is just a gender non-conforming person. There's no objective criteria. You cannot do it. Okay, let's keep going.
I already know. Whilst I film this video, I'm gonna do my makeup. It's like a get ready with me. It's a two birds with one stone. It's a I'm quite busy and I gotta pack two things together and I don't have time to film tomorrow and I've just got back from Paris and bear with me. This video is about the hundreds of messages that I receive from people asking me, how do I know if I'm trans? Or I think that I might be. And obviously I've already made a video about this. How do I know that I'm trans? How do you know that you are trans? How does anybody know?
It's easy. Don't worry. Your girlfriend will tell you.
This is different. I'm going to talk about the key.
That person who said that was Finster, by the way. And basically, he just admitted that this Icky, his girlfriend, like groomed him into trans identification.
The element of that video that I only mentioned briefly, which is that you already know. In the question of am I or am I not trans?
No, you don't. You could just be a gender non-conforming man who has autogynephilia. You don't have to take on the trans identity. You don't have to say that there's this mismatch between your body and your identity. You don't have to claim that you were born in the wrong body. You don't have to claim that you're transing anything or that you have some true trans essence or that you're true trans. you can just say that you're a gender nonconforming male who has autogynephilia.
Trans. You do already know the answer when you're posing the question. The thing that you are getting stuck on is whether it's the right thing for you, whether you'll regret it, whether you can just accept that. Accepting, like, I'm trans, my life has to change, is 100 times harder than actually knowing whether you are or you're not. Now, I don't want this to be like super inflammatory, and I also don't want it to be like, she's saying that you have to be trans and you can't express gender identity and you can't make mistakes. You definitely can, but I know that there is a key difference between exploring a gender identity and figuring out what's right for you and having that am I trans question. Oh, I'm just layering it on. Oh my God. I do not feel very functional today. I've never actually spoken whilst doing makeup. Usually I just sing songs. So this is going to be very interesting. Okay, I'll give you an example so you can better understand what kind of demographic I'm thinking about when I say these things. Hey, Icky, I feel like I'm a woman inside. Like, I don't mind being a guy, but as a woman, I'm actually happy and I've experienced joy for the first time ever.
Usually they're talking about euphoria boners, which is that trans joy, that like euphoria, that stems from the autogynephilic novelty and excitement that comes from living out your sexual orientation, from engaging in your sexuality. It is a sexual joy. It is a sexual excitement in almost all cases, particularly in these initial initial gender explorations. Because we already know that they said they're not unhappy being a guy. They just get a lot of thrills when they cross dress or put on makeup or, wear panties or, get or pretend to be a woman on the internet or something. Like all that is stemming from autogynephilic euphoria. That's all stemming from an underlying satisfaction of one's sexual desires and the satisfaction of one's underlying erotic drives. That satisfaction of underlying erotic drives leads to joy and happiness. Just like a gay guy who's living his truth, living his, living out his sexual orientation, that brings joy and euphoria when you're living your truth, living your sexuality. It's the same exact thing with autogynephilia. You're living the truth of your sexuality and you're living it without shame, and that brings joy and happiness.
I don't know if I'm trans. How do I know if I'm trans? Being trans is very, very complicated. There's no particular box that you have to tick. So I understand that it can.
Because there's no objective, diagnostic, clinical definition for true trans. There's no such thing as that. You cannot tell between a gender nonconforming male who has autogynephilia and a true trans who has gender dysphoria. There's no there's no substantive essential difference between the two. It's just a matter of whether or not you take on certain narratives, certain self-descriptors. This is a narrative identity. It's not a underlying metaphysical essence that says like, oh, you have a gender nonconforming brain and you have a trans brain and they're totally different. No, they have the same underlying neurological structures, and gender nonconforming males with autogynephilia can have all the same sorts of hatreds of other bodies, hatred of being male, dislike of being a guy, all the same feelings. Dislike of their body, wanting to get rid of their penis and all this stuff.
And it can be complicated. How are you supposed to know if there's like so many variables, or it's just like so open-ended? You can have dysphoria, you can have euphoria, you can not have those things. You can be very comfortable in your assigned birth gender.
They just said you cannot have dysphoria, not have euphoria, be comfortable in your assigned gender role, aka being a guy, being a man, and still be trans, somehow be true trans. What is that? That doesn't make any sense. There's no there. There's no substantive, metaphysical, essential difference between a gender nonconforming male and true trans. There just isn't.
Gender and still be trans. I think that if you experiment with your gender and you get so much joy from it and so much energy and
experimenting with your gender for most males just involves like buying a skater skirt from Amazon, getting some pink striped thigh highs, and like putting on like a wig or something, and then you get euphoria. That's called a euphoria boner, which is stemming from autogynephilia.
And life that you come to my content and you watch through all my content and then you decide like, I just need to message that you already.
So if you are following trans creators such as this, following trans women, and you're envious of their life, most likely that is stemming from something called autogynoandromorphophilia. So that stems from the fact that you have a paraphilic interest in trans women. You're watching trans pornography. Like if trans pornography is your number one favorite genre, like that's your go-to. You just always watch trans pornography. Then that is what you're attracted to. You're attracted to feminized males. But it's very highly common. It is correlated. If you have gynoandromorphophilia, attraction to feminized males, attraction to the concept of transformation. Like a lot of men are attracted, have a kink for transformation fetish. The like fetish for transformation itself, the transformation from male to female. That transformation itself becomes part of the paraphilia, becomes part of the attraction. And then you sort of turn that inward such that you're attracted to the trans woman, but you're envious of the trans woman and you want to be the trans woman. So all these men out there who are confused, these eggs, they're like watching this trans woman like, oh, I'm so envious of that person's life. That is a good sign that your AGP or autogynoandromorphophilia, which is a subset of autoheterosexuality, a subset of autogynephilia.
Already know. It's easier to have somebody else tell you than have it be something that comes from yourself from within.
That also stems from a forced feminization kink.
That happens with a lot of things. Things like ASD or ADHD. You kind of want like a doctor to tell you you are this thing, to confirm it so that you know that you're not making it up. And that doesn't really happen with being trans. It's just not a done thing. Like friends and community can tell you that they think that you are, but nobody really knows except you. Like having to come to terms with something yourself, it sucks. It's
basically, they just admitted that no doctor can use objective clinical diagnostic criteria to determine whether or not you're trans or not, which is why this isn't medicine. We're not dealing with medicine here. We're dealing with spirituality, with religion, with identification, with narratives, with, this is not science. This is not medicine. This is not life-saving healthcare. This is the actualization, self-actualization through indoctrination into a particular identity that has associated ideological factors and an online culture, which is ultimately stemming from a subculture based on sexuality called autogynephilia.
like kind of one of the hardest stages of transitioning. Taking HRT is easy. Growing boobs is easy. They hurt though. Telling your friends and family, that's difficult. But what's even more difficult is accepting it yourself and being like, okay, I have to come to terms that I am this thing going forward. I have to change my whole life and I have to tell.
No, you don't. You can just be a gender nonconforming man. Learn to be a man. I'm not saying you can't ever take this path, but it shouldn't be done lightly. You should try your best to integrate these desires and these feelings into your life as a man prior to attempting what she's advocating for. But people just get pushed on this pathway so quickly because it's so appealing. There's all this social media and they make their lives seem so glamorous, and there's like influencers, and it all seems so fun and girly and exciting and euphoric and enjoy it. And also there's a lot of sexuality to it. A lot of pornography associated with all this stuff.
Tell my friends and family, and that is my decision. That's hard. That's difficult. It takes bravery. It's a lot easier to just sit and pretend and say that you're not, that it's just an expression. But I think some people really, really know that they are this thing. They are trans, they are a woman or a man, and they want to transition. They need to, but they kind of just want that. Like,
how do you know? You already said there's no box you can check. There's no criteria. You can be perfectly satisfied as a guy and have noticed for you, know euphoria, and somehow you're supposed to just know based on what? That's like spiritual mumbo jumbo. That's not based on anything objective. There's no there. There's no substance here.
Like someone to tell them that push. Mom, this YouTuber told me that I'm trans, so I'm gonna transition now. That's like right-wing, like rhetoric. I already made a video where I talk about, can transitioning be a fetish? Because that is a thing that gets brought up when people.
I already did a reaction to that video, and this person, Icky, basically admits to having like euphoria boners, and so yeah, they are of the autogynephilic ideology, but they don't strike you as your typical classical, stereotypical 50-year-old, Caitlyn Jenner type autogynephile. This is a new breed of autogynephiles that are coming out younger and younger, largely due to exposure to these online trans communities like Reddit and Discord and TikTok and all these things.
People are like, no. I do think this thing, but maybe it's just a fetish. That is like the last line of defense. Like, I've never heard of that being a thing. I've never heard of anybody going through with something that intense just for like sexual gratification, because it gets boring really quickly. It's difficult. It's not something that you're going to be like, oh, this is so sexy. I'm waiting at my GP to talk to them. I'm having a phone call with my doctor to ask them to put me on the HRT waiting list. This is so sexy. Nah, I'm doing blood.
Okay, so that is false. That is totally false. There are plenty of self-identified sissies, aka people who have a sissy kink. If you don't know, sissy kink is a particular subcategory of autogynephilic kink, which is based on the idea of sissification. And if you go to the primary sissy subreddit, the discussion subreddit for sissies called Sissiology, r/Sissiology, and you search for hormones, you will see that there are plenty of self-identified sissies, aka people who clearly think of their feminization as a kink. This is clearly sexual. This is clearly erotic. This is like full-blown 100% in the kink world. They're saying, how close have you come to taking hormones? Mega thread for sissies who are taking hormones or considering taking hormones. Feminization without hormones. What do daddies think about sissies that take hormones? Effects of hormones. Sissy on hormones. Hormone therapy. Sissies who have taken hormones. Started hormones. Has anyone taken hormones or had surgeries purely to become a sissy? Age, hormones, and sissiness. Hormones and poppers. Hormones. I think I have a hormone fetish. Hormones. What brand of hormones do you like, sissy? Hormone cream. Can I be a sissy without taking hormones? Hormone growth. Is it possible without hormones? Growing boobs without hormones? Hormones or not? Do I actually want hormones? Just started taking hormones this week. About to start hormones. How much do female hormones shrink the penis? So I started HRT. Hormones. So clearly people do take hormones specifically because of a kink, and that is not even and like they're aware of it. They're self-identifying as sissies, but that's not even counting all the trans women who start off with a sissy kink, start the hormones, and then disavow their sissy identity and take on the trans identity. There are plenty of trans women who out there sort of, in their public facing world, they say like, oh yeah, I'm a trans woman. But deep down, they still identify as sissies and they still have sissy kink. They still like to watch sissy hypnopornography, and they like to watch Fudanari, the erotic, shemale, like hentai stuff. Like all this stuff is alive and well. And yet this person is sitting here saying that, oh, it couldn't possibly be a fetish, even though it clearly is in the vast majority of cases, which is why if you go on trans or the gender dysphoria Bible, or you type in trans Reddit or whatever, is it just a fetish? The vast majority of trans women, upwards of 80-90% of all trans women, before they transition, before they take hormones, they are asking themselves this question: is it just a fetish? Now, clearly, once they go down this pathway, the identity aspect, these autobiographical narrative identities, they sort of expand You know, they sort of take on a life of their own, such that it goes beyond the mere fetish. It goes beyond the mere paraphilia. It takes on a life of its own, such that, you know, eventually, and then, you know, when you do it long enough, you do it every day, it loses its novelty. It loses its stimulus. It stops being hyper stimulating, and you get habituated to the stimulus. It loses its taboo and its kinky side, which comes from shame. And all this stuff, it just become assimilated into your normal autobiographical self narrative. And so this is why a lot of trans women say, well, autogynephilia isn't possibly a thing because I'm not having a raging hard on while I'm in the doctor's office. You don't have to be constantly aroused all the time, particularly after you've already nuked your libido, for it to be the case that autogynephilia is a real phenomenon, because autogynephilia is more about properly describing the origins of gender dysphoria, not necessarily how that gender dysphoria elaborates in life as you go down the full-blown transition pathway, or you integrate it into your life in some other way. But I wanted to share this. I'm like not going to watch the rest of the video because I kind of made my point, which is that this egg culture, it's indoctrinating people down the trans pipeline rather than speaking the truth, which is that you are a gender nonconforming male who most likely has autogynephilia. There's nothing wrong with autogynephilia. There's nothing wrong with taking hormones because you have autogynephilia. You just have to be aware of the risk, and you shouldn't be deluded by these gender identity, ideological, metaphysical fantasies and delusions that, you know, you're born a woman, you're a woman on the inside, you're female trapped in the male body. All this nonsense that comes from gender identity theory. Gender identity theory is a philosophical, like, incoherent. It just doesn't make sense. What's really going on is you're a male who has a particular sexuality, inverted heterosexuality, that causes you to develop gender dysphoria, and then going down these pathways to feminize yourself, it makes you happy. And that's it. That's why people do it. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a man who embraces his sexuality. There's nothing wrong with having kink, as long as you're not hurting other people. And, you know, don't use female spaces. Don't go into the women's bathroom. Don't go into the women's changing room. Don't compete on the female sports team. Don't go into the female domestic violence center. You know, just be a man and embrace being a man. Embrace it without shame. Overcome the stigma and just say, fuck it, do whatever you want, but just don't pretend that you're a woman, because you're not. You're a male who has an inverted sexuality. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.